question is, how do I deal with interruptions and fires? Now, this is something that I had to work really hard on because I do a ton of focused work. And then when I get disrupted, it is a very frustrating to try to get back into that focused work mode. Now, if you are like me, this episode is really going to help you because this is how I figured out a way to limit the distractions and the interruptions. So, I think the first thing is making sure that you are scheduling time to get focused work done. Now, that means that you have to communicate to your staff, anybody that could potentially interrupt you, that this is your focus work time. So that means also that you're going to turn your phone on airplane mode, turn all the notifications on your computer off or down. So that way you're not getting distracted by the random bings and dings that happen on all the different devices that we have. Don't forget to turn off your watch too, because that is a notorious one because it wants you to stand up. It wants you to remember all these different things that you have set up. So going through and silencing all those different interruptions will make a huge difference. And sometimes you don't even know what the interruptions are. So when you first start this process, you might not realize that you had an alarm set. And even though you've turned your phone on do not disturb, that alarm is still going to happen, which is goofy because you would think do not disturb means do not disturb. But for the current iPhone version that I have, that's not the case, so keep that in mind. You can schedule an open door time. So if you have a ton of people that you're working with, scheduling that time with them so they know that, hey, this is my open door period of time. This is, if you have questions, this is time to ask them if you need to ask them in person. But I would prefer if you Slack them to me, or you can send me a video chat, something like that. But if you physically need to come into my office, here's the time frame to do that. Now, I realize that we are all, well, I shouldn't say all, but a lot of us are working from home right now. And so those disruptions could be a family member, it could be a child. And that is something that's completely different than your typical employee because you can't tell your child not to interrupt you because sometimes they have to. So setting expectations for people that could potentially interrupt you, that's going to be the key. Now, if someone is interrupting you, you can train them to get to the point right away. So if you have an employee that is someone who is typically long winded, you can just say, hey, what's the actual problem? I have a set amount of time. I need to get this taken care of. I want to make sure that you get the answers you need so you can get back to what you were doing. However, you want to phrase that, that doesn't sound rude, is probably the most effective way to do it. Now, everybody handles things differently. So I think by sharing with people ahead of time the open door time frame, your schedule, when is the right time to interrupt you with things, that's the key. The person that could be interrupting you, they don't want to interrupt you either. They know that you're doing focused work. They probably are the same way or similar to you, and that when they're focused on something, they don't want to be interrupted either. So, we want to create a respectful conversation ahead of time so that no one leaves this interaction feeling hurt or, doesn't want to come interrupt you again with something that really probably that you should be interrupted with. So, this is about planning ahead versus when the actual, situation comes up, but it will. So let's talk about that. So when you do get interrupted, you want to make sure that wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, you write a note down on your planner or whatever, notebook or something that you're using. That way you know exactly where you left off and you can circle back to it. Because when you get distracted by a different problem, that's going to distract you and you're not going to remember where you left off. And that's, I think, a lot of times where the frustration comes from is, great. Now I don't know where I left off. It's going to take me 20 minutes to figure out where I was before I got interrupted. And that leads to frustration, and sometimes people project that onto other people. So that's something that you don't want to do. Now, you want to make sure that when you're working on, the refocusing part, you could also send yourself a quick voice memo. So if someone, knocks on your door and says, "Hey, do you have a minute?" You can say, "Absolutely. Let me just record this really quick so I know where I left off." So you can use iPhone voice memo for that. You can use rev.com. That's what I use. And that will automatically send yourself an email. So that way, where it was that you left off. You could even make that quick note that I talked about. Sometimes it's just easier, especially if you're working on a project that's going to stay stagnant, it's not going to continue to move. You can jot that note down really quick in your planner. And then that way you don't have to worry about things looking completely different when you come back to it. When you have that conversation with someone about an interruption that they have, this could be a training opportunity. This could be an opportunity to create a screen flow. So when you start recognizing these things that you keep getting interrupted with, or if people keep sending you emails about the same thing, this is when you want to use your screen flow library. You can have those links available to people. So if somebody sends you an email that says, "Hey, how do I do this?" You can quickly send them back a canned response with, "Hey, here is where the screen flow library lives. There's actually a video on that. Go take a look at that. If that doesn't help solve the problem, then reply back to this email and we can schedule a time to go over this together." Because with any screen flow, you might have to improve that over time. Actually, I shouldn't even say might. You will, because technology is going to change, people are going to change. You're going to find a better, more efficient way to do the thing that you're teaching people how to do. What When you first created that screen flow library, things probably look a lot different than they do now. So just know that going into it, have that expectation that you're going to be making changes to the screen flow. So that way, over time, people will get used to checking the screen flow library versus asking you. That will save a huge amount of time on interruptions. Now, open that up to your employees as well. If people want to add to the ScreenFlow library, empower them to do that. If you want to review the videos to make sure they are correct or, do things in the right order, you can do that as well. Just have folks send those videos to you. You can schedule a timeout on your calendar to review all those and get them uploaded as quickly as possible because we want employees to know that their time is valuable as well. So if they send you a ScreenFlow and you don't look at it for months, it's kind of disrespectful of their time as well. And you probably have gotten interrupted a ton with that same thing. Or more importantly, they've gotten interrupted with it. So as soon as you receive that screen flow from an employee, you want to get on that, you want to get it reviewed, and you want to get it uploaded. Then you also want to make a note of who contributed to that video because you might want to circle back with them again 2 months, 6 months, whatever that time frame looks like, and see if that technology has updated since then. See if the order that they do the video in, if they can still follow their same video. You want to make sure that those are updated as well because nothing is more frustrating than being told to go check out the ScreenFlow library and then going to it, trying to follow along and realizing that the screen that you're looking at versus the video that was created look completely different. Super frustrating. So just know that that ScreenFlow library is always evolving, it's always changing, you're always making up to it. And these couple short things will hopefully help you get rid of interruptions, fires, and distractions the more you do it.